Welcome. Here I will show you how to create the Mosaic Swatch, which is a lead up to the Mosaic Wrap, the Moroccan Mosaic Wrap. The purpose of the swatch is to get you comfortable with the Mosaic Crochet technique, teach you what the symbols are, and how to work the pattern. Our little swatch will end up being what it is it's one of our medallions that we're going to start as a border on our wrap if you're doing the wrap with me. So we have one little medallion here, and what it'll end up creating is a little, just a little mug rug or something about that big. So it'll get your feet wet for Mosaic Crochet so you can jump into the bigger project of the Moroccan Wrap. You can see they're kind of laid out the same. The most important thing to know in this pattern is any cell that has an X in it denotes a double crochet, and any cell that does not have a character in it, even if it's a different color, if it doesn't have an X in it, it's a single crochet. Those are the two stitches you're going to use throughout this whole pattern. You have a row of asterisk stars on either end. These are your anchor stitch rows. They are going to be worked as a slip stitch with a single crochet through both loops. Your cells without a character in them are going to be single crochets in back loop only, and your cells with X's in them are going to be double crochet into the front loop of the row 2 below your working row. So what does that mean? That means that this cell right here that has an X in it is going to be a double crochet worked into the front loop of this stitch 2 rows below down here. It sounds a little confusing. It's really not. Mosaic crochet is really cool because it is very basic, very simple stitches that can create absolutely beautiful patterns. You don't need to know a whole library of stitches. You can use a lot of different colors, and you can make some really gorgeous patterns just by using single crochet and double crochet and overlaying it in the mosaic technique. So we are going to set the wrap pattern aside here, and we're going to be working with our mug rug pattern to get our feet wet. I have got a couple colors of cotton here that we're working with, and they recommend a size 5.5 millimeter hook, so we've got that, and we're also going to need a pair of scissors. The reason you need a pair of scissors is because every single row is its own. You cut the yarn at the end of every row and start new, so you're going to end up with a fringe on either side. So you're definitely going to want a pair of scissors. So we've got some black and some orange. I went with contrasting colors so you could kind of see a little better and brighter how the pattern kind of comes through. So what we're going to do to start the swatch, we're going to create a foundation first. So we have rows 1 through 25, columns 1 through 25 rather, and then 2 anchor columns. So we need to chain 26 plus 1. So we're going to chain 27 stitches. So we're going to take black, we'll start with black, we're going to make a slip stitch, take our 5.5 millimeter hook, and we're going to chain 27 plus 1, so 28 stitches total. 1, 2, so there we have our 28 stitch chain. Now I like a 2-row foundation just because I like the way a border looks on something. So we are going to next turn our work. So we're working from, this is now our working end, and we're going to go back this way, and we are going to single crochet in each stitch across. We are going to start in the second chain from the hook. So we're going to skip this stitch, and we are going to go in the back loop and single crochet. Again, back loop and single crochet. And we are going to do this (27) times. So we will end up with a foundation of 27. So go ahead and finish all the way along to the end. We are getting to our last 2 stitches in the row here. And that'll give us the first part of our foundation chain, or foundation row rather. So last stitch there, we are going to chain 1, and we're going to turn. We are going to go back across that same row all the way to the end again. So we're going to do 27 single crochets to the end. We've now gotten to the end of the row. This time we're done with black for a little while, so we're going to go ahead and fasten off and cut our yarn. We're going to pull that tight. This is now the right side of our work. Now we get into the fun part. We get into our chart. These charts are real easy to read once you get used to it. Basically, if there's a character in the box, you're supposed to be doing something other than a back loop single crochet. If there's an X, I know we covered this already, but just as a refresher, if there's an X, we're going to be doing a double crochet into the front loop of the stitch 2 rows below. If there is not an X, back loop only single crochet, and your asterisk, your star at the beginning and the end are your anchor stitches. So you are performing a single crochet through both loops there. Those are anchoring our rows for us. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at row 1 and 2 right now. They're our symbols for our anchor stitches in the first stitch and the last stitch in both rows. Other than that, we have no characters in these rows. So those are 2 rows of single crochet only. And then when we get to row 3, we start with our double crochets. We are going to alternate colors every other row. So we just did black. Our next row, row number 1, is going to be an orange. And then row number 2 will go to black, row number 3 will go to orange, and so on and so forth. And you can kind of see in the pattern here, you know, the black is shaded. Don't let the color of the cell throw you off. All that matters in the cell is the character or lack thereof, not the color. So we'll go ahead and we will do row number 1. So this first stitch is our anchor stitch. It's denoted by an asterisk on the chart. So we're going to go ahead and insert our hook through both loops. We are going to take orange. We're going to slip stitch it in. So we slipped it in there, and then we're going to also do a single crochet. Now our orange is anchored. Now we have 25 back loop only single crochets and then our anchor stitch at the other end. So we'll go ahead and do a back loop only. So we're doing back loop only, single crochet. Back loop only, single crochet. Don't pull too hard. Back loop only, single crochet, and we're going to do that all the way across until we have one final stitch remaining, which will be our anchor stitch. All right, we're getting to the end of row 1. So we've got one more stitch here to perform a back loop only single crochet. Now we have our last anchor stitch. So we're going to go through both loops for an anchor stitch, single crochet, and then we're going to fasten off and cut our yarn. Row 1 is done. Now we've got row 2. Row 2 is identical to row 1. So you're going to have an anchor stitch at the beginning, and you're going to have an anchor stitch at the end, and you're going to have all back loop only single crochets in between. Don't worry, this gets much more fun in the next row. Then we'll get to put the double crochets in there. So we are alternating colors, so we're going to go ahead and get black again. We're going to slip it in, and then we're going to do a single crochet to anchor that row. Whoops. And we will start with our back loop only single crochets all the way across. We are getting to the end of row 2. We have one final back loop only single crochet, and then we have our anchor stitch. Again, anchor stitches through both loops. Fasten off. We'll cut our yarn. Set the black aside because we're alternating and we're going back to orange. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Time for double crochets. So we need to figure out how many double crochets we need in a row here. If you'll notice, all of them except for one is a double crochet on this next row. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we will have one single crochet in back loop only. And then we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 more double crochets. Of course, your anchor stitches on either end. So let's get to it. Taking orange. We are going to slip stitch it to the beginning. Black really was a dreadful color to pick because the stitches are much harder to see, but the contrast is really beautiful with black. Okay, slip stitch and then single crochet through both loops to go ahead and secure it on there. All right, remember 12 double crochets, which we are doing in the front loop of the row 2 beneath the row we're working on. So this is our working row, 1, 2 beneath. This is where we are going to be performing our double crochet. So yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, yarn over again and pull it through, yarn over, remove 2 loops, yarn over again, remove 2 loops. There is our double crochet in the front loop of the stitch 2 rows under our working row. We are going to do 12 of those. Yarn over, insert, and perform a double crochet. It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Maybe. There we go. All right, so we have now got our 12 double crochets. We now need a single crochet back loop only. So this would be our next stitch, the stitch right above it. We're going to do our back loop only, single crochet. Now we need that last 12 double crochets. So here we go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. That brings us to our anchor stitch. That's the only one left, as long as our math is correct. Through both loops for that anchor stitch, single crochet, and fasten off. Pull that nice and tight so it's secure. And that is row 3. This entire pattern is going to work out the same way. X's are double crochets in the front loop of the row 2 beneath, and cells that are empty are single crochet and back loop only. And what that's going to do is overlay a really beautiful pattern that has a little bit of texture to it also. So we'll go ahead and start row 4 together. If we look at row 4, we have our anchor stitch, and then we have all single crochet back loop onlys, and then we have a double crochet right in the center. If you notice, that double crochet right in the center is going to go into the front loop of this stitch, which is coincidentally the one that we had the single crochet in before that, so that we could fit this stitch in here to start the very bottom of the motif. So it's kind of like a little puzzle with stitches. We'll go ahead and get started on row 4. Again, we are alternating colors, so we're back to black. We'll do our anchor stitch. Slip stitch it on there and single crochet through both loops. We have 12 single crochet back loop only, we have 1 double crochet, and we have 12 single crochet back loop only, and our final anchor stitch. So let's go ahead and work that all the way to the end of the row. Got into our double crochet, so we're going to go ahead, take the front loop of the stitch 2 rows underneath. That gives us a longer black stitch right there. 12 more single crochet back loop onlys. Here we are at the end of the row. All we need now is our anchor stitch. Okay, fasten off and cut our yarn. Okay, so we're on to row 5. Row 5, we are going to have our anchor stitch. We single crochet back loop only 3 times. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double crochet, 3 single crochet back loop only, 8 double crochet, 3 single crochet back loop only. So some of these double crochets we're going to be making in the double crochets we made on row 3. So you'll start to stack color on top of color, and it covers the black, which is where you get your nice big spots of color, or nice big spots of black when we're working on the black rows like that. So we'll do 5 together, and then you can probably take it from there until we get to row 25 and are ready to finish this thing. Alternating colors, so we're back to orange. So let's go ahead and perform that anchor stitch in the first stitch. Slip stitch and single crochet through both loops. Now, as a refresher, row 5, we have 3, 8, 3, 8, 3. So 3 single crochet back loop only. Now we have 8 double crochet, so those are going into the front loop of the double crochet that we made 2 rows below, this loop right here. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we are back to 3 single crochet back loop only for our middle section here. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Now we have 8 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should leave us 3 stitches for single crochet back loop only and 1 anchor stitch, and it sure does. 1, 2, 3. And our anchor stitch. We're going to fasten off and cut our yarn so we can see the pattern just starting. I think I used a little bit too thick of yarn for my mug rug. It's going to be more of a pot holder size, I guess, but who can't use another pot holder? So we'll go ahead and continue working in exactly the same way all the way up through row 25, and I'll see you back at the end of row 25. Okay, we've come to the end of round 25. So with any luck, this is what your piece looks like. The way that I'm going to finish the swatch off is a little different than the way that I finish the Mosaic Wrap off, the Moroccan Mosaic Wrap off. I really wanted a black border all the way around my wrap. I just thought that it really made the colors pop really nicely on the ends, and I added some black fringe to the ends of it when I was done with it, and I thought that it looked really nice that way. You can always leave your multicolored fringe though, and it actually looks quite nice. You can add more to it if you want it a little bit thicker. What I chose to do was weave in all of my ends and then put a double row back and forth of single crochet on the ends so that it bordered the entire piece in black. For the purposes of the swatch, I'm not sure you really need to do that. Everybody knows how to weave in ends, and the directions for adding the border to the ends are really clear in the pattern. So if that's something you want to do, it definitely does give it a nice finished look. How we will go ahead and end our swatch is we will do the same thing down here, up here. So we're going to attach our yarn in black in the first stitch. And we are going to do that same type of anchor stitch. So we're going to slip stitch it on. We're going to do a single crochet through both loops. Now we are done working the chart, so we're going to go right ahead and single crochet all the way across in both loops, all the way across to the last stitch. So we'll go ahead and do both loop single crochets all the way across the top of the swatch. Getting about halfway there now. And as we finish up the end here, we're continuing to do both loops. We're not working back loop only on this part. We've gotten to our last anchor stitch. We're going to go ahead and single crochet. Now, instead of fastening off and cutting our yarn, we're going to chain one, just like we did on those first two foundation rows. We're going to go ahead and come back all the way to the end with single crochet. Getting to the end of the row here, we are going to place our final single crochet in that anchor stitch, and now we are going to fasten off and cut our yarn. So there we have a successful Mosaic Crochet swatch that was originally intended to be a mug rug, but I used thicker yarn than the Moroccan Mosaic Wrap pattern calls for. So it ended up the size of a pot holder. Luckily it's cotton, so I can use it as a pot holder. Thanks so much for hanging with me for this tutorial. I hope there is lots of mosaic crochet in your future. I hope one of them is the Moroccan Mosaic Wrap that is going to be live on the blog, and we will also have it in our Brooklyn Hookers Crochet Club Facebook group. So find us there or on Instagram under Brooklyn Handcrafted.